relationships only to spend more time with me.
When the defendant told you that, did it bother you that he had feelings for you?
Did it bother me?
Did it bother you?
Yes.
Did you express that to the defendant?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Scott, you want to push it?
You may.
Thank you. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 42, and it's date stamp page 6422. Does that appear to be an email communication between the defendant and Hemming Newman?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and what's the date of that communication?
It is Friday, August the 20th, 2010.
And who's that email from?
It is from Ms. Sneiderman,
And who's it to?
Mr. Newman.
Can you read the content of that email, please?
It says, by the way, BTW, if you would rather pass on Greenville for now, I hope you know that I'm okay with that. Andrea.
Thank you. May I push the witness?
You may.
further? I'm handing you what's already been marked, and we've already discussed it. It's State's Exhibit number 32, and I'm just going to refer you to a particular portion since we've already read the email in its entirety. I'm going to refer you to a portion and ask if you read what's enumerated there as number 2. First of all, is that part of an email communication?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and the part I identified for you, who sent that part of the email?
This is from Mr. Newman to Ms. Sneiderman.
And what's the date?
It is Friday, August the 27th.
Okay. And amid that email, State's Exhibit number 32 that we've already identified, I referred your attention to a particular portion that's bullet pointed or enumerated 2. Can you read that part for me, please?
Sure, it has 2, parenthetical. I don't have to go to England, but if you think that it is good that I go for work reasons, then I will. We can have fun as colleagues, but that will be all.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Scott, I got one final email for you. It is State's Exhibit number 48 and identified as date stamp page 6500. Your Honor, may I push?
You may. And this is number 48.
48, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to direct your attention, Ms. Goff, to that middle portion of the email exchange. And can you tell me, does this appear to be an email exchange like all of the other exhibits between Mr. Newman and the defendant?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and the part I identified for you, what's the date of this exchange?
September the 27th, 2010.
And who sent this email on September the 27th, 2010?
Ms. Sneiderman.
All right, can you read the content of it, please?
Well, flight is number 1 priority, but if you were delayed, you will have the time, or is your schedule set in stone now? JCC question mark, is that what you're talking about? Did I mention that? Where did that come from? No, it is not really about needing advice/inputs anymore. It's about execution, mine. I just need to power forward and make it happen with the hopes that the routine will solve many of the problems. Parenthetical, unlikely, but a girl can dream. So many arguments over the weekend I could tell you about, but it will only make it worse. The kids did very well while I was gone, so did Rusty. But now that I'm home, the tension is back. I guess that is the real issue. Oh well.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Who's with Mr. Petrie?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Ms. Goff, good morning to you again.
Good morning.
Gonna have to get an apartment down here, I think. Just got a few questions for you about the technicalities. These emails that you have been reading for us here today, I believe most of them are emails that are sent through Microsoft Outlook. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is that system-wide for GE?
Correct.
Okay. And just to make sure that we understand them correctly, that the way that I think some people call them a thread or a string or a group of emails responding to one another. Generally, the way that would be printed out would be if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 exchanges chronologically. The earliest one is in general going to be at the bottom of the page or the one farthest down, correct?
Generally, yes.
And so if someone's not familiar with Outlook and reading it, in order to read what started it, you'd flip over, if it's 3 pages over, flip over to the bottom of page 3, and it'd be from so-and-so to so-and-so, and then there'd be a response to that, and you work your way to the top.
Correct.
And these emails, occasionally, if I understood your testimony correctly and read it correctly from the board, occasionally an individual email might not say from A to B, but it's still in that string. Is that correct?
Correct.
How does that happen? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. I could speculate.
Well, let me ask you.
Speculate.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Don't
I-
speculate as just a guess, but if there are, in your area of expertise, if there are reasons that you are familiar with that could happen, that is fine. But if it's just a guess, please don't share that with me.
I've seen it happen with individuals using iPads or iPhones or something other than our normal Outlook messaging client that's on the desktop or a BlackBerry client. So I have seen it in that, but that's not the only way that could potentially happen.
Okay, and that's one other thing I was going to ask you about. You can, on an iPhone or an iPad or BlackBerry or I guess a lot of smartphones, they can be outfitted to respond to emails from the company's server, correct?
Correct.
And so if you and I work for the same company, you send me an email at my desk, I read it at my desk, but by the time I respond, I'm responding from my BlackBerry. Would that still show up in that same string?
Yes.
Okay, and then you're at lunch, so you respond on your iPhone to me, and then I don't respond to you till the night on my iPad. They're all still going to show up as part of the same document, but they might have different headings. They might look different from each other.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Ms. Green Cross, any other additional questions at this time? For this
Not
witness?
for the state, Your Honor.
Well, do you want her to remain under subpoena so she can be recalled, or can she be released and go back to Cincinnati?
I think we're going to be able to let Ms. Scott go.
Yeah.
Mr. Petrie, any objection to her being released?
One moment.
No, that's fine. Oh, we're back on the record. Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
so we
Petrie.
have no objection to her being released.
All right, you're free to go this time.
Okay.
All right, you may want to head to the airport. Call your next witness.
State calls Melanie White, Your Honor.
All right. You coming up, please?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you should give to the court today should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may lower your hand, you may be seated. If you would now, please state and spell your name for the record.
Melanie White, Melanie White.
Ms. White, how are you employed?
I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker in Dunwoody,
And how long have you been a realtor in Dunwoody?
about 28 years.
28 years.
Yes, sir.
In your capacity as a realtor in Dunwoody, did you have occasion to meet a Hemi Newman and a Relly Newman back in 2006?
I did.
Okay, can you tell me why you met them and what y'all did?
The Newmans were a referral from my company for me to find them a home. So I met with Mr. Newman several times, and then his wife came in, and we found a home for them to purchase.
So you actually helped them purchase a home.
Yes.
Did you keep in contact with the Newman family after you helped them purchase a home, I presume, in 2006?
Yes.
You did keep in contact with them.
Yes.
How often would you talk to Mr. Newman, Mr. Hemi Newman in particular?
A couple times a year.
Was this unusual for you to do?
No, sir.
Okay. What type of things would you talk about when you talk to Hemi a couple times a year?
Just to see how the kids were.
No,
how-
1 second, if there was an objection, yes, sir.
I am objecting on the grounds of hearsay. I understand we have already argued this particular issue, and I'm going to object that anything she says that Hemi Newman said, and I just want to make sure that is on the record and we are not waiving any rights. I understand the court has previously ruled.
All right. Anything else, Mr. James?
No, sir.
All right. I will stand by the earlier ruling. She will be allowed to testify.
May I have a continuing objection to any hearsay testimony elicited from, as to what Mr. Newman said, Your Honor, without having to stand up and keep objecting?
You may have a continuing objection. It's noted for the record.
Thank you,
And
sir.
if something is outside of that objection, feel free to make an objection as you deem appropriate.
Yes,
You're
sir.
not limited. Object when you deem you have to object, but it's overruled. Go ahead.
Ms. White, if you could lean forward and speak into the mic so the jurors
Just
can
come a
hear
little
you.
closer. Watch your knee though, because there's a little bar down there. It's made of wood and it's firm.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
What type of things would you and Mr. Newman talk about when you kept in contact with him through the years?
I would call and see how he is, the kids, the house, just touching base, see if he knew anybody who might need a realtor.
In July or so of 2010, did you meet with him again?
Yes.
Okay, and was this a face-to-face meeting or was it a phone conversation?
The first was a phone call.
Okay, and what was the phone call about?
Hemi called me. He wanted to chat with me about his financial strains. The twins were in Georgia Tech. They were in college, and he was having financial difficulties. He was thinking about doing a short sale on his home, and he wanted to meet with me so that I could explain to him the different options that he may have in selling his home.
Did y'all meet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where did you and Hemi Newman meet?
We met at the Sunflower Cafe in Sandy Springs.
The Sunflower Cafe in Sandy Springs.
Yes.
In relation to the phone call, about how long after the phone call did you actually meet with him?
Oh, a day or two.
Okay, do you remember what time of day it was? Was it a lunch meeting, a breakfast meeting?
It was lunch.
It was a lunch meeting.
Yes.
When you met, can you tell us what you and he talked about initially?
Initially, we talked about, well, it was good to see him. I hadn't seen him in probably 6 months or a year. And we just talked about his difficulties, again, the twins being in college, and just talking about the financial part of it, his issues. And then I explained to him about a short sale.
About a short sale?
Yes, sir.
What is a short sale?
A short sale is when the mortgage company agrees to take less than what is owed for them in order for the people to get out of the home. They don't have the money to continue to pay the mortgage. They usually are behind by 3 months, and the mortgage company forgives that. So the home is sold for less money than the mortgage is.
And this was the business part of y'all's conversation?
Yes, sir.
At some point, did it transition from business to personal in this conversation?
It did.
Okay, can you tell us how that happened?
Hemi said that he had left his wife the night before.
He had left his wife the night before?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And I was very surprised, and I was like, why? He said that they've always had problems, they had always had problems, and now they were really having financial strains. He did mention that Relly had never worked, and that he was getting on to her about, you really need to find a job because twins are in college, and he had moved out to the Crestwood Suites to the hotel, he thought for a short time.
And this was, again, going back to the time around, what time of year is this?
About July.
About July. Is it early July or late July, or do you recall?
I don't recall.
Just July.
Just July.
Did you follow up when he said he had left his wife? Did you ask him what was going on? What did you say?
Well, yeah, I asked him, why did he leave? And he told me about their problems over the years. And then at one point, I said, is there someone else?
Is there someone else?
Yes, sir.
How did he respond?
He said there was somebody that he was fond of at work.
Did he give a description of this person?
He said that she was married and had 2 kids.
Did he give you her name at this point?
No, sir.
Did you all talk about anything else in relation to this woman in this conversation?
No, sir.
All right. Did you have another conversation with him concerning his personal life at some point?
Many.
Many. Let's talk about the next one. Was there ever a point that you found out the name of this person that he was talking about?
Yes, I probably after a few conversations, he told me her first name. I really did not want to know her last name because we're all in the Jewish community in Dunwoody, and I really didn't want to know.
How do you know she was in the Jewish community?
He told me.
Okay. And what did he tell you her name was?
Andrea.
Did he give you any information as to her marital status?
That she was married with 2 small kids, yes, sir.
What did you Did you give him advice? Did you remark when he told you that this woman that he was interested in was married with 2 small kids?
Yes, sir, I gave him advice a lot. My advice was always the same. Go back to your family, leave her alone.
Now, you said earlier that he being Hemi, that he moved out, Crestwood Suites, in that
Yes.
first conversation you had.
Yes?
At some point, did he ever actually move back into the house after he moved out in that conversation?
Yes.
Okay, and when was that?
Maybe a week. It wasn't very long.
So if I understand your testimony correctly, he moved back in after he told you he moved out,
Correct,
approximately a week later.
approximately.
Did you and he ever have a conversation about a trip to Greenville?
Yes?
Okay, let's talk about that. Was that conversation on the phone, or was that in person?
It was on the phone.
Okay, and can you tell me, first of all, what Hemi was doing when he called you?
He was at work, I believe.
Tell me what he said.
He said that he had a business trip planned to go to Greenville and that Andrea was going with him, and he was very excited.
Did he say anything about the sleeping or living arrangement in Greenville, where their respective rooms would be?
I don't recall.
Okay. Is that all he said in this conversation, or did you guys talk more in this particular conversation?
We talked a little bit more. I believe he had gone over to the Schneiderman's house the night before. I'm not sure why, but at some point, Rusty had indicated to Hemi that he really trusted him with his wife and that he trusted nobody more than her to go out of town with him.
This is what Hemi told you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Hemi's calling you, and is he calling you from the car, or was he calling you from work?
He called me from both places.
Okay, let's talk about the conversation from the car. Tell me about that conversation.
I don't remember if it was from the car, but he called me when he was on his way to, or I thought he was on his way, it was earlier in the day, and said later he was going to go pick up Andrea, and they were going to drive to Greenville together, and they were going to stay in the hotel. He did not tell me that they were going to have, he didn't mention if they were going to have the same room or not, connecting rooms.
Okay. Did you actually get a call from Hemi while he was in Greenville?
Yes,
Okay. Tell me about that conversation.
I believe, I don't remember if it was a Saturday night, but it was in the evening, I would say about 9:30, and he called and he said that they had gone down to the lake and they had had a drink and they had gone back up and had a nice dinner, and they were heading back up to the room. They had adjoining rooms, which is when he told me, and what did I think he should do?
What did you think he should do? What did you tell him?
Go to his room, lock his door, leave Andrea alone.
How did he respond?
He did not respond.
Was this the last time you had a conversation with him on this evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have another conversation with Hemi about the Greenville trip?
Yes, sir. As soon as he dropped Andrea off, he called me right after he left her house.
And how do you know it was as soon as he dropped Andrea off?
He told me.
Okay. What did he tell you about his trip in Greenville?
He told me that they got really close and that she, quote, gave in.
She gave in.
Yes, sir.
How did you respond when Hemi told you, quote, she gave in?
Hemi, you know you shouldn't do that.
You told him, no, you shouldn't do that?
Yes,
Why?
because it's infidelity.
How did Hemi respond when you said that?
I don't recall.
Did you have any more conversations about Greenville?
No.
What was your phone number at the time?
404-915-9622.
404-915-9622.
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever meet with him and have a conversation with him about a trip to London or England or the United Kingdom?
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall when about this meeting was?
It was, the meeting was in September 2010.
How are you sure that it was September 2010?
Because he told me that he was planning a trip to London and that Andrea was going with him. And he told me that they were leaving on a certain day, which happened to be a very religious Jewish holiday called Yom Kippur. And I thought it was odd that they were leaving that day, as it is one of the most religious days of our whole year.
That's how you remember it?
That's why yes, sir.
Tell us what he told you in this conversation. Well, first of all, let me step back a little bit. Was this a phone conversation or a face-to-face conversation?
He had asked if I would meet him again for lunch. This was the second time I had met him and the last time I had met him face-to-face.
And where did y'all meet face-to-face?
The Perimeter Food Court at Perimeter Mall.
Was it a lunch meeting?
Yes, sir.
All right. And tell me about the conversation that you and him had.
At that time, I believe he told me that he was up for a promotion at GE that he didn't get, and he was pretty upset with that. And then he told me about the London trip and going with Andrea and how excited he was.
Anything else at this particular meeting?
Not that I recall.
When he got back from London, do you remember if you had a conversation with him after the trip?
Yes,
Was this conversation in person or was it on the phone?
on the phone.
Okay. Did he call you or did you call him?
He always called me.
Okay. Tell me about that conversation.
He called me and he said that he and Andrea had gotten very, very close while they were on the London trip. They had decided that together that they were soulmates, that they could finish each other's sentences, that they knew what each other was thinking, and that they really, really got close. He said that they had connecting rooms at the hotel, and that at some point, I don't know who went into whose room, but either he went into Andrea's room or Andrea went into his room.
Did he tell you what happened once they ended up in the same room at the hotel?
Yes, they were on the bed and they petted and...
Okay, you gotta break it down for me. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. They kissed, they fondled each other, and they did just about everything but have intercourse.
Did he say what happened after this?
He said that Andrea got up and went to the bathroom.
Did you ask him what she did when she went to the bathroom?
I said, why did she go to the bathroom?
What did he say?
He said, to finish herself off.
To finish herself off.
Yes, sir.
How did you respond when he told you these things?
I flabbergasted. I don't think I said anything.
And this is the phone conversation?
Yes, sir.
Did Hemi ever send you any email correspondence about the London trip and his relationship with Andrea?
Yes.
Your Honor, the record may reflect I am showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State Exhibit number 49.
49, yes, sir.
May I approach you?
You, sir, you may approach.
Mr. White, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit number 49. If you can take a look at that and tell me if you recognize it.
Yes, sir.
And how do you recognize it?
My email is on here, the current email that I have, and Hemi's email is on here.
Okay. And is read through it, well, don't read through it, but look through it and tell me if that is a fair and accurate representation of the email correspondence that you and Hemi had on those days that are listed.
Yes?
Are there any alterations, deletions, additions, anything made to that document that does not represent the correspondence that y'all had?
Not that I can see.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender State's Exhibit number 49 into evidence.
In objection to S49, S49.
Your Honor, subject to my previously stated objection concerning any hearsay from Mr. Newman, so yes, I would object.
Objections noted. 49 will be admitted into the record. Over objection, you may publish it to the jury if you wish.
So if I may, Your Honor,
You may approach, yes, sir, and you may display it wherever you deem appropriate.
ma'am, what I would like for you to do is to start at the back of the email and read forward in just a second.
Okay.
Can you tell the jury the nature of this email stream? Was it something that was forwarded to you? How was it initiated?
Yes, this was between Andrea and Hemi, and Hemi forwarded it to me, as he often did.
Okay. Can you read what was forwarded to you?
Excuse me, you said as he often did. What do you mean often did?
He often emailed me emails that he and Andrea had together so that I would give him my opinion and advice.
Aren't you a real estate agent?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. James.
He was my former friend.
If you could read that, ma'am, starting from the back, reading forward.
Yes, sir. September 27th, 2010, 2:41 p.m., Andrea Sneiderman writes to Hemi Newman, I am so sorry that you are so sad right now. I feel terrible that I have not supported you in your situation. I want to do that, but you know how conflicting the whole thing is. But I still want to do it. If you want to talk this week, I am available. Please do call me. I will try and call you on my way home today around 4-ish.
Now, let me stop you right there. This is what Hemi sent to you, correct?
Yes.
All right. In the email, it says, I feel terrible that I've not supported you in your situation. Are you familiar if Hemi ever left his wife again after that initial time that you told us when he went to the hotel?
I don't recall.
You don't recall when he left?
I don't.
Okay, we'll move on. Can you start with the next part and read that?
This is Hemi's response to Andrea, Monday, September 27th, 2010, at 2:46 p.m. Please don't be dealing with it as difficult as it may be. Just knowing you are there for me is enough. Thank you for being my friend, and as your friend, I won't do that to you because it just pains you. Besides, I'll be on the flight when you free up. Go home, relax on the way, think of me and smile, and enjoy your peanuts.
What was the next email saying?
The next email from Andrea to Hemi, September 27th, 2010 at 2:50 p.m. Are you sure? Well, if your flight is still delayed, then you will have no choice but to talk to me. Smiley face. Not a lot of relaxing going on these days, but I'm trying to get there. I need a routine. Is that ever possible? Smiley face, me.
And can you read the email from Mr. Newman?
As for the routine, yes, I've told you, but you want to limit my inputs on that. Frowny face.
The next email?
Yes, sir. What's the J? Quotations J. Sorry for my ignorance. But I guess you're now used to these cute bouts of ignorance. Smiley face, thinking about my choice, flight, talking to you.
Next email from Andrea Sneiderman.
September 27th, 2010, 3 p.m., Andrea Sneiderman to Hemi. Well, flight is number one priority, but if you are delayed, you will have the time, or is your schedule set in stone now? JCC, is that what you were talking about? Did I mention that? Where did that come from? No, it is not really about needing advice inputs anymore. It is about execution, mine. I just need to power forward and make it happen with the hopes that the routine will solve many of the problems. Unlikely, but a girl can dream. So many arguments over the weekend I could tell you about, but it will only make it worse. The kids did very well while I was gone, so did Rusty, but now that I am home, the tension is back. I guess that is the real issue. Oh well.
How did Mr. Newman respond?
.305, Hemi responds, subject, sorry. You know I'm there for you if there's anything you want to talk about. No, it's not just your execution, and good to dream. By the way, flight was moved up to 3:34 from 3:56, but back from 2:15. You are so much a better option than the iPad. Just saying.
Mr. Newman's next email?
Um,
Sorry, Ms. Sneiderman's
and-
next email.
Yes, Ms. Sneiderman's email back to Hemi to September 27th, 3:07 p.m. I know you were there, and it is easy to fall back on that, but not the best long-term solution for everyone. I really think it is about execution right now. I need to set up a stable operating rhythm. I am sounding like you, and stick to it for more days than not.
The bottom part of it?
Glad you will get out today. I was just thinking that our flights there and back went by so fast. Crazy. Me.
Can you read Mr. Newman's response?
311, Mr. Newman's response, okay, whatever you need, and I'm sure we'll get a chance next week to talk about me. In the meantime, find your routine, hopefully not involving the carpool lane. Thanks for being there. By the way, did you see the movie Being There with Peter Sellers? A classic. Me.
Does that conclude number 49?
No, sir, it does
Okay.
not.
Because I need to take an earlier break than normal. Is it a place I can pause you right now and come back after the break? Or did you want to finish this?
I
particular
wanted to finish this.
Let me let you go ahead and do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The last email.
Well, let me ask you.
Sorry.
I'm going to ask you about the last email just in a second, but I want to ask you about, did you verbally respond to these forwards from Hemi?
I don't recall.
You don't recall?
No.
Do you remember if you had a conversation with him or if you told him anything about advice-wise?
My advice was always the same. I did tell him that it sounded like she was on an emotion, that she was kind of,
Your Honor, I'm going to object to what she told Mr. Newman, offering her psychological analysis of Mrs. Sneiderman.
Now, this is her words to Mr. Newman, and what's the basis of this objection?
She basically is saying what she told Mr. Newman about her opinion of Mrs. Sneiderman. It's completely and totally irrelevant.
Response?
I'll move forward, Your
All
Honor.
right, I'm going to sustain that objection.
Let's go to Mr. Newman's email.
okay, yes.
Is this an email to you that I'm looking at the top of the page?
It is.
Okay, and Hemi Newman sent this to you.
He did.
Okay, and can you read the email that Hemi Newman sent to you?
Yes, Monday, September 27th, 2010, 11:40 p.m. From Hemi to me, the subject, sorry, and he says to me, read from the bottom up. What do you think? Thanks, Hemi. Tuesday, September 28th, 2010, 12:24 a.m. Hemi to me. I guess I should put this in context for you. We left the flight with a kiss, knowing that I was traveling, and I told her that we shouldn't really communicate over the next 1 to 2 weeks. She wholeheartedly agreed. By the way, she did tell me that one of the things that kills her is that I'm the only one she can talk to about us and Rusty, that everyone else will be so disappointed. So she tells people snippets, controlling the whole story. She also says that it won't change the outcome, that she is staying no matter what, so any advice is pointless. Anyway, on Sunday she sent me a text, and then we went back and forth a few times regarding how the kids are, great, etc. I did give her advice that she must concentrate on them. Today, as much as it killed me, I did not contact her. She pinged me that she wanted to talk to me about some work thing. Again, some chat and texts, and we agreed that she would call me at 1 o'clock while I was waiting for my flight. She called and we spent 15 to 20 minutes talking about the kids and the presents we got them. She paid, but we chose them together, etc. I told her briefly that we never talked about my situation and that it was quite messy. I told her that I couldn't have sex with someone I didn't love and that it was killing me pretending to be someone I wasn't. It took 2 minutes. Then we talked about work for another 10 to 15. That's when the exchange started below. At some point, she canceled a meeting we had scheduled for the next week because of some training she has. I wrote back with a sad face, and she wrote back ditto. There was more text exchanging throughout the night. I don't want to lose her. Hemi.
Let me pause you right there, Mr. James, and I apologize, but we're going to take a break, but I said we're going to come back to it. Everyone's going to ask any and all questions they want, but I just need to pause right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I just need to take an earlier break. I just have, as the chief judge, I just have some other things I just must do, and I just need this extra 10 minutes to get to that issue. Ladies and gentlemen, when I give you this break, do not discuss the case or allow anyone to discuss the case with you. Once I release you, leave your notepads there in the jury room, turn them face down, and you're going to be going to lunch at this point in time. And I don't want you to remain on the floor because I don't want you to hear anything you should not hear or interact with anyone you should not interact with. If you do decide to have lunch here in a dedicated area, you are more than welcome. But do not sit next to anyone who may be discussing the case or allow anyone to sit near you who may be discussing the case. As I told you earlier, you got one or two options. Either you can move away from them or they can move away from you, but you cannot sit near them. Even if you, at this point in time, decide to go to lunch together, you cannot be discussing the case, even as a group at this point in time. It is not that point. I need you to keep an open mind. At this point, do not read or look at any media coverage pertaining to this case. Do not go upon the internet and do any research about this case. Do not blog about this case while it is ongoing. Do not go to any location that may or may not have been made reference to during the course of this trial. All the evidence that you're going to base your ultimate decision upon will come in the form of sworn testimony and any testimony that has been entered throughout, and also any exhibits that are introduced in the course of the trial. You're more than welcome to bring something to snack in or eat with you during the afternoon session. We're going to be following a similar schedule as we did earlier in the week, as we continue this process. Do not consume any alcoholic beverages during the lunch break. At this point in time, Deputy Buckles will return to you your cell phones and communication devices. Do not text or talk about this case even on your cell phones with anyone. As I said, at this point in time, do not discuss the case. Make sure you put your cell phone or communication device in the off position. He will collect those after we return from lunch. As I indicated, lawyers and the parties cannot talk or interact with you. Even if you see them outside, I don't ever want you to think they're being rude or discourteous or draw any emphasis from that. They just cannot talk or interact with you outside of the courtroom. We're going to reconvene at 1:30. 1:30, you're only getting an extra 8 minutes from what we normally do, so it's not a lot of extra time, but I just want you to use that extra time as you deem appropriate. We're going to be fully engaged, and we will stop at a reasonable time. I've not determined what reasonable will be today, but it's going to be reasonable. And that's all I can tell you at this point in time, but I want to see each and every one of you at 1:30. We're on recess till 1:30. All rise.
Welcome back, everyone, to 11 Alive's continuing coverage of the trial of Andrea Sneiderman. I'm Jeff Hellinger, along with Marcia Shine, who is the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys. And Marcia, I know as we were sitting there listening to Judge Adams, if you close your eyes, he has a very similar kind of voice pattern to the late Johnny Cochran.
Yeah, he does. He has some interesting mannerisms.